And we are live. What is up, everyone? So I assume you guys all watched the Terrence Howard on the Joe Rogan podcast, and want me to go over some of the things in it. So I just want to start out with the whole idea of square root of 2. So this is the square root of 2. This would be 1, and this would be 1. So 1 squared, 1 plus 1 squared, 1. 2, and this is the square root of that, right? So let's think about just a quick run over about why this whole 1 times 1 equals 2, or whatever he says, and why that is just wrong and bad math, and the whole idea that there's no such thing as 0. Of course, there's such thing as 0. 0 is not just a placeholder; it's an actual number, and it has a lot of special things. So one of the ways we can multiply things, all right, is we use multiplication tables. You use blocks, right? So you have a multiplication table. Let's just say, we can do this. 2 times 3. I can write 2 times 3 like this. So here's 3, and there's 2. 2 times 3. Then you count all the squares up. You get 6. That's 2 times 3. And it works commutatively to 3 times 2 will also give you 6. So it's commutative as well. So another way we can do multiplication is with lines. So let's just say you have 3. So you start with 3, and then you go times 5. You can add, or just 3 times 3. So you take 3, and then you put 3 on the end of those, and then you count all those up, and you add that up. That's 3 times 3. Okay, so that's multiplication, and that's different than adding, because 3 plus 3 is just taking 3 and then adding 3 more here, and that's 6. Whereas 3 times 3 is 9. So 1 times 1 is 1 with a 1 on the end. Okay, it's not 1 plus a 1. It's not 2. It's a 1 with a 1 on the end. So it's still equal to 1. So that's a better way of mathematically visualizing multiplication and understanding what the difference between multiplication and addition is, and why 1 times 1 equals 1 and not 2, and why the square root of 2 does not equal 1. So that's just the basics of that. Not even getting into, let's get into the chemistry stuff now too. And but let's hear. I'd love to hear anyone who is wants to criticize my method of multiplication and test it, put it to the test, because Terrence Howard, his example works for his one thing, but it doesn't work outside of that. Math needs to work for everything you try. So yeah, the block works, but and then he's rewriting math. So he's rewriting all of physics too. I have a whole list of here's my whole list of timestamps. All right, so let's get into it. Again, we didn't need Walter Russell's table to tell us this. In fact, I talked about periodic tables in another video that I did recently, because we have that whole periodic table, but we also have lots of other periodic tables. So let me find that real quick. I got all his patents up here. We're going to get into all those and get into all this stuff. But yeah, so exactly, why do you use Walter Russell's table, and why is that table interesting? Why didn't he use Benfei's table? I mean, Walter Russell's table is from the 1920s. So it didn't really get all the heavy lanthanide and actinide series of the 1940s that were discovered by Glenn Seaborg and his group. So there's lots of different ways to arrange the periodic table, and not all of them are useful, right? Types of periodic tables. Now, what depends on what information you really want and what you're trying to look for, because there's different types of periodic tables. There's periodic tables that organize them by. I like the ones that what is interesting. It does have circular periodic tables on here. It does have a variety of different periodic tables that they show. The helical table is one of my favorite. Crook's Lemmy scale figure 8 periodic table that he had, this figure 8 table. So this, Walter Russell's not the first guy to try to rearrange the periodic table and into some meaningful way, but it doesn't give us insights into new chemistry at all that I'm aware of. The chemistry, the laws of chemistry are pretty much still the same. We still, things are opposites because of the charge and the whole Lewis structure and all that. We've understood that for a while, that there's 8 valences and filling them. And the whole idea that we can oversimplify this and we can simplify all the elements down into single frequencies. And we get the frequency of hydrogen that he says, and then we can split that with the water, use the frequency of beryllium, and it somehow it splits the water. And there's actually experimental results for this, which is interesting, that arc liberated chemical energy exceeds electrical input energy. And this is from Cambridge University Press in February of 2000. And I believe this has been Journal of Plasma Physics right here. So and this is NASA. So they've done this, and I'm aware of people doing this, and of energy machines, like claims of, like Stanley Meyer, the water car, breaking the bonds of energy of water and then getting more energy out than we got in. And we had one of these systems that we tried on a car back in about 10 years after this patent, in 2009. We had put a device on Jeff Peckman's car that did this. And but I'm not sure if he got any extra usable output energy in his engine. He said he didn't really notice much, and then you had to change this thing out every once in a while, so it became a pain in the ass, the electrolytes and stuff in the solution, and then they if it breaks or spills, it can be really bad. So for the rest of the car, but I don't know. There's some interesting stuff there for sure with the excess energy that supposedly comes out of this reaction. So that's interesting and definitely worth looking into more. The periodic table that he shows here and this weird way of arranging it. Again, you can periodic table by atomic radius, right? So there's another one. The periodic tables by atomic radius. So there's trends in the periodic table. These are good these are useful for looking at relationships across the periodic table. But the periodic table is not like a linear thing. It starts out nice and easy with these 8 octaves, and then it gets complicated really quick, because what you're dealing with is structures that are polyhedral, polyhedra, right? So polyhedra have certain ways of combining together. And just like we talked about the math about why 1 times 1 equals 2 and not, 1 times 1 equals 1 and not 2, that's called combinatorics. That's a branch of math called combinatorics, which is ways of counting things. So that helps explain what multiplication is versus addition and how to properly count things. So when you're counting atoms, which are made of subatomic particles, lots of protons built up on each other, which make these complex shapes, as you combine more and more of these protons and neutrons in the nucleus takes on new polyhedra faces and stuff. So that is a whole another branch called the polyhedral combinatorics, which is a fascinating branch of mathematics in and of itself, because it combines combinatorics with discrete geometry and these types of problems. If you're interested in really digging into the math and the science of this, there's lots of real problems left to be unsolved by geniuses who were just waiting for the next Terrence Howard to come along and solve some of these problems. So Fermat's last theorem, the Poincare conjecture, I think actually that got solved recently by Gregory Peelman. Won the Fields Medal, I believe, for solving that one. So these are things that I would like to see, Terrence come on our show and talk more about and enlighten us scientists and people who study this kind of stuff about a little bit more, if indeed, some of the claims he's making here are true, So he's talking about there are no straight lines, and this thing about Euclidean geometry, and no one would want a Euclidean woman. We all about the curvature, and everything's curvature, and it's all about curves, and there's no such thing as straight lines. And that's all ass backwards, man, because there is such thing as straight lines. There's a whole book on all this stuff. It's called Euclid's Elements, and it was written a very, very long time ago. And it goes into, a lot of these relationships in mathematics about, the square, the circle, the Platonic solids. And if you really want to go back and study the ancient literature, and you can go back and read this, and there's books on it and a whole bunch of videos on it. With one of my favorites is a channel called Mathophile. And he just gets into the nitty gritty on the mathematics of all this stuff. But yeah, you really should study the basic foundations and get those right before you try to tell everyone they got it wrong and that there's no such thing as straight lines. So one of the things, there was a mathematician named Leonard Euler, and he figured out a very interesting relationship between straight lines and circles and the number one. Did you know that the number one equals e to the I pi? Yeah, that's the weirdest, one of the most awesome relationships in mathematics, because it involves e, the natural number, I, the complex number, and pi, the irrational relation of a unit's circumference to its diameter, so of a circle. So one e to the I pi is a very interesting equation that Euler came up with, and he found this whole hidden in this thing called e, this natural number that he figured out. I don't know if he came up with the natural number e, but let's talk about e, the natural number. And the awesome thing about e is that e is this pattern. Euler's number. It's considered the natural number, and it shows the exponential constant. So in order to get e, right, it's the summation from 0 to infinity of 1 over n factorial. Okay, so n factorial is just 1 in this case. 1 plus 1 over 1 plus 1 over 1 times 2, and then 3, all added up to infinity. And as this term keeps getting smaller and adding significantly smaller contributions. So it starts with 2, and then a half, and then a little bit, and then a little bit, and a little bit. And if you keep adding those little bits up, you'll get to this number about 2.718. And but this weird thing about this identity, this whole thing, is you can break this down. If you separate out the odd and the even parts of this e function, right, you get sine and cosine. So you get, from a straight line, from a straight number, you get this exponential function but you also get circles and you get curves and all the curvature out of this, the sine and cosine function and all that stuff. So all that stuff is just in the mathematics, and this is stuff that you'd learn in college if you had bothered to go to, you know, taking a bunch of college math courses before reinventing the wheel and telling everybody that 1 × 1 = 2. So anyways, this is very important mathematics, and is something I think that I think Terrence is missing out on a lot of key of math in his whole thing, and his whole way of connecting this is some of these connections are just not right that he's making. And I just, hopefully I would love to get him on the show, or find a way that we can just correct all the science and stuff involved in this, because so right there, he says our math is wrong, our fundamentals are wrong, and they've been wrong for so long that we just, you know, we're all mixed up, right? That's what he's claiming. But anyways, this all right, so this is cool. They apparently built this vortex-based model in this. This is a program called Blender, and they did a Blender render which produced the hexagon on the pole of Saturn, supposedly. Just although I haven't seen the modeling data and really gotten into this, I'd like to get the program that they used and their files so that I could really dig into this, because he talks about in this, and he mentions
that space on the top
that they programmed all this stuff in with the incident angles and all this stuff into this program, and it spit out the vortex naturally. And I just want a little bit of peer review on that with some, so, you know, if we could dig into that a little bit and examine that, because it seems to me if you just set up a 6-fold symmetry in your vortex pattern in the Blender render software, you could create a hexagon quite easily with a bunch of vortexes at the right angles. But hey, I digress. I want to see more in that in depth and really try to get at that. And then this patent, and look, I found this is one of the only patents that comes up if you look up Terrence Howard on the patents thing. I have 2 links in the description where you can look up. I found 30 other of his patents by looking up T. Howard instead of there's a T. Howard. He's got another patent with Chris Seeley. He's got some other interesting patents on here, but I can only find 30. He claims he has 97 patents. Originally, I could only find 3, and those were the patent for this, what looks just like the holodeck. It really just sounds like the holodeck from Star Trek. It really doesn't sound. It sounds like he thought up the holodeck from Star Trek and patented that. It's very similar to that. And it just sounds like he was one of the first people to really patent this, and that the VR world kind of took off after that and had to cite him. So he got the priority thing. The diamond earring and the diamond jewelry, he's got 2 patents on that, which is not anything technical, man. That's just jewelry. But he's got a bunch of other patents we're going to look into here in a second. But we're first, let's get into
back to that same.
Let's just finish the key points from this
fractal
theory. So unified field theory is like, that's like theory of everything. That's where you've unified the fields with quantum field theory of quantum electrodynamics, which is weak force, strong and weak nuclear force plus electromagnetism with the force of gravity. So he claims he's done this. He claims he's figured out gravity, and that even has some technical difficulties during the podcast. And he even says that, oh, hey, Joe, they're trying to shut us down because they don't want people to know the truth about the gravity. Bro, you're on Joe Rogan podcast. You got 5 million views. If you had the chance to dump it right there, man. It's like, if I was on Joe Rogan podcast with 5 million viewers, man, I'll tell you what, I could have done a lot better. I don't know. Anyways, the dodecahedron and this whole thing he's talking about with the platonic solids, and that was a tetrahedron body angle first off, the first one. So I don't know where he's going with this, and then he talks about the dodecahedron, and so the tetrahedron is an interesting shape because it's the dual of itself. Okay, if you truncate a tetrahedron, which means cut the tips off of all the faces, it's down to the vertices. You truncate it, you'll get another tetrahedron, and if you truncate that, you'll just keep getting tetrahedrons. So it's a dual of itself. If you truncate a cube, the truncated cube becomes a octahedron. Okay, so let's bring this up and go into our platonic solids and go over some basics, that some really key connections about all the geometry and the math that he missed in his all enlightening overview of grand unified geometric theory. So this is like, I don't know, I was listening in the Twitter space last night with Dr. Brian Keaton and Dr. Eric Weinstein, and Eric Weinstein's geometric unity revolves around a lot of this basic stuff. So he knows this stuff inside and out, man. And I'm sure he was definitely cringe at a lot of the stuff that Terrence Howard was saying. If you listen to that, Brian Keaton and Eric Weinstein's response to that podcast, Brian Keaton has some interesting things about the spectral emissions. I thought that was a super awesome comment. There's almost an infinite number of spectral emissions. It's very simple for hydrogen, and you can get all the spectral emissions. You can actually predict their energy values and all of that using the time-independent Schrodinger equation. So you can use Schrodinger equation. It works for hydrogen, and it spits out the frequencies. So if you have a new grand unified field mirror, and if you've a grand unified field theory, and you yourself have rewritten quantum physics, the first thing you need to do is show us an equation that spits out the spectral emissions of hydrogen and gets those energy spectra right. Okay, the Schrodinger equation does it. It's messy. It's a little bit. It got some infinities involved in there and renormalization and all that stuff, but it does it, and it gets the right answer. So if you've got better math and you've got better theory and science, then by all means, spit it out and show it. And I've gone into some of those ideas with Frank's and Artsik's theory. You take the force of the Coulomb force between an electron and a proton inside the nucleus, and you turn that into a spring function with square root of k over m. You pull that out, and you actually get the frequency, which is 1 over 137 times the speed of light out of that, which is interesting because he calls it the speed of quantum transition. That 137 comes out of this factoring of what the wavelengths of light slow down to when they enter the nucleus to exchange that energy through that transition phase. So there's a lot of that goes on in quantum mechanics that we've gone over a lot of this stuff in the past on this channel, and we welcome people like Terrence on to come and lay this stuff out, and we'll have a panel of scientists that I can put together and pull out of the woodwork to come and comment on this stuff and give expert advice and opinions. So back to what I was saying about the platonic solids with what's called the dual. Okay, so the dual of the tetrahedron is itself, because you truncate the edges, you cut them off, you get another tetrahedron. It's another tetrahedron hidden inside of that, and inside of that, and inside of that. It's there's a fractal it creates if you keep doing that indefinitely. It's similar to the Koch's snowflake or Menger's sponge, like a combination of those two. I forget what it's called. There's a name for it. But anyways, if you truncate the cube, cut all the corners off, right? So you cut it here to here to here. That's a triangle, that's a triangle, and that's a triangle. You cut all those off, you get the octahedron. And then if you cut the octahedron down, all the faces off the octahedron, all the tips, you'll get a cube. So the cube is the dual of the octahedron. These are both duals of one another. Same thing with the dodecahedron and the icosahedron. If you cut these things off, you get triangles, and you get 20 of them, and you get a 20 faces icosahedron. And if you cut all the tips off the icosahedron, you get these pentagons, back to pentagons, because 5 triangles meet at a single vertex. So when you cut that off, you get a pentagon. And so the dodecahedron and the icosahedron are both duals of one another. But another hidden gem that people don't know, that's hidden inside of that magical dodecahedron, is known as the quasicrystal. And the quasicrystal, as you can see, this is an icosahedral quasicrystal. It's made by a bunch of golden rhombuses. Each one of these faces is a golden rhombus. So that's it's 1 unit across and 1.618 high, phi ratio. So that phi ratio comes out in the sacred geometry and plays a key part, which Terrence Howard hadn't talked about at all. He didn't mention phi or how phi relates and comes into all this. But phi is related to the pentagon and the pentagram, actually. So all those symbols. He talks about the symbology of this mathematics that was banned by the church and made to look evil. Well, the symbol for the devil, according to the Catholic Church, is the pentagram, which is the star. So that's all the 5-fold symmetry groups, which is super interesting, because this is a dodecahedron if you take the pentagon for all the faces. But this shape, if I were to put a box around it, it would be a dodecahedron. But inside, it's made out of unit cells, which are related to this golden rhombus. So it's related. You're bringing phi and relating phi to the pentagon again through the quasicrystal, which is another thing that is super interesting that I just thought that Terrence Howard should have known about, or mentioned something about the relationship in this sacred geometry puzzle with the pentagon and the 5-fold symmetries, which are forbidden by nature, and then create these very remarkable and unique symmetries when we bring those out. So yeah, there's a lot of let's get back to Terrence. All right, let's go back to our buddy Terrence here. Come on, present. All right, next bit. All right, we got the grand unified field. So these linchpins and these shapes, which are just Platonic solids that he's putting together, are the grand unified field theory, and this is Jesus walking on water.
Keep inventing, and they have the CERN collider smashing living things together. Smash, because these protons, they're live.
No, it's weird. Yeah, you got a point there. It's a very interesting time for Terrence to just come out of acting to go show up on Joe Rogan Experience to get 5 million views, claiming that he's working on and exploiting all these things and he's got it all figured out and he's the guy. It's just, yeah, it does seem kind of weird, the timing of it all. It just seems like, there's, I don't got it all figured out, but I don't claim to, but I got a lot of this stuff figured out. I've been down these rabbit holes for 20 years now, like going over all this stuff. I'm super familiar with all this stuff. And then to have Terrence come out and say that, he's figured out gravity, he's got a grand unified field theory, he's got a patent. Well, it sounds a lot, it's not,
everything is
can't help it. It sounds a lot like, and other people have made the connection. It wasn't put together on here, but other people have posted the connection with the Malcolm Bendall stuff, right? So Malcolm Bendall, did the same thing where he comes out, claims he's got free energy, he's got this thunderstorm generator, it's everything's fixed, we're gonna have free energy. They hook this up to his Honda generator, and you can just breathe the exhaust right out the back. It comes out so clean, and I don't know. And then they mix it with all this Rodin coil, Marco Rodin math, and what he calls vortex-based mathematics. The guy couldn't model a vortex to save his life. He wouldn't even know what a complex number is. Some of these guys, I've seen them live. I've met Marco Rodin. I've watched him live, man. I watched him like set a fire to his demonstration. I wish I could find that video. I was trying to find that so I could play it on the show today, just to kind of show all this stuff. But this plasmoid unification model of physics that Malcolm Bendall's come out with, and now he claims that he's got a warp drive. Malcolm Bendall directs matter to energy warp drive, the Vajra implosion turbine. And again, this Vajra, the implosion turbine, again, it's all this Victor Schauberger pseudoscience that's being recycled and put out now with this silly, pseudoscientific model of chemistry and physics. So they can kind of throw in all this stuff and really confuse and mislead people. Is basically what I think is going on. I think that a lot of people are getting confused and misled by this stuff. Although I could be completely wrong, and maybe Malcolm Bendall really does have a direct matter to energy warp drive and a free energy generator with his thunderstorm generator. So what I am hoping is that Malcolm comes to Tesla Tech this year, because Tesla Tech, I missed last year, and I wasn't able to go, but he showed up there at Tesla Tech down in Albuquerque with his thunderstorm generator, and I was so mad that I didn't go. So I hope he shows up this year and that I can go. I'm going to get Steve on here soon to come promote the conference and stuff. But I really want access to this thing. I've tried to get him on the show, tried to reach out, and I haven't gotten much of a response because of the things that I've said. I said like his work seemed like it was plagiarized. And people didn't like that comment. And I said, I had a friend that had an invention very similar to this, and he didn't want me to talk about it and put it out there. And I told him that I wouldn't. And, and eventually it got to the point where people calling me a liar and saying that, this didn't happen. And so I said, hey, here's the patent if you guys all want to go find it. So I posted the patent, and people can go check that out. It's almost identical to the thunderstorm generator patent, and it was assigned in 2013. I mean, it was filed in 2013, assigned in 2014. So 10 years before Malcolm Bendall came out with this stuff, I knew people working on the same stuff. I knew people who were into all this stuff. I knew people working on it. So it'd be great if Malcolm Bendall or Terrence Howard does have the free energy grand unified field theory and the answer to gravity and the answer to all this stuff. Please bring it on this. I would love to bring that out. This is the show that we would do that on. This is what I've been researching and working towards on this channel, and what we've all been interested in for 20 years now. So yes, I absolutely love that if Terrence Howard or Malcolm Bendall would come on the show and really answer to the skepticism, because I'm not like these other guys, man. I've been fooled plenty of times, and I've fallen down the wrong rabbit holes and fell for a lot of bullshit over the years. So I'm skeptical now, and I'm much more careful, and I'm very well educated on a lot of this stuff. So you're not going to have the same dumbfounded, Jamie looked that up reaction when you come on AlienScientist show like you have on Joe Rogan podcast. It's not going to be the same. Joe definitely needs to get me on the show, man. 5 million views, and this guy comes out of acting. I mean, he was doing this stuff for a while on other shows, but this is where he really blew up when he went on Rogan. So I just think it's bizarre that, there's all these big popular claims coming out about anti-gravity and this kind of work, and I feel like it's just shadowing out a lot of the work that we're doing, which is in many ways much more legitimate. Although I really like his lighting design. I think these lighting things are super cool, the way that they reflect light around, and that's a cool structure. And then the whole idea of these drones that can kind of go together and lift stuff up, that's pretty neat. But don't claim you got anti-gravity, man. And if you don't, yeah, Joe Rogan, man, it would be crazy. Joe Rogan, if I went on Joe Rogan, it would 5 million views. I guarantee it would get more views than that, because it would be such. I could just drop such controversial stuff, man. Whatever. I'll never happen. I've given up on the idea of it ever happening. So I just feel like it's totally controlled, and that he's very limited on who he can have on based on whoever's doing the booking for the show. I mean, they've had a lot of frauds on there numerous times, like repeatedly come back on to sell misinformation and disinformation. So I really worry about the legitimacy of that whole show in general. But let's get into the patents. We got these the linchpin for omnidirectional flight for these. We've got the systems and methods for projectile propulsion. So he talks about this projectile propulsion. This is a propulsion patent that I could find, and this is like a gun. Looks like the damn Eraser, the gun from the movie Eraser. This electrical capacitor. That's an interesting figure. And then it's the wiring circuit diagram. There's a bunch of capacitors here in parallel. Yeah, I'm not sure, man. Would love to build some of the stuff and try it out, but and see how really good. It's a chemical potential energy. Yeah, conventional projectile weapons are powered by chemical potential energy. That's your gunpowder. All right, boom. While chemical-based projectile weapons have been the standard, the small amounts of propellant limits the propulsion force that can be generated, and therefore limits the speed at which the projectile can be fired and the distance that the projectile can be shot. Yeah. The present disclosure describes systems and methods for projectile propulsion where the propulsive force is supplied by an electrically overloaded capacitor, which causes a portion of the capacitor to explode and generate an explosive propulsive force to propel a projectile with substantially more force and at a substantially higher speed than is achievable by conventional power-based round having a similar size. So blowing up capacitors instead of blowing gunpowder up in your chamber is, I guess, what they're doing. So I'm not sure what the detonation of velocity is of a blown up capacitor or these things, or what the. I'd like some physical specs. What's the muzzle velocity? What's the yeah, there's a lot of questions I'd have about this technology, and this is literally based on water being ionized into plasma. Yeah. So some of that stuff's interesting. Yeah, Bob Greenier's talked about this with these plasmoids and the that structure that he's trying to say is part of this. Love to see more come out of that and more experiments and verification and stuff. But man, like, don't make bold claims before you have it, man. Just kind of, yeah. It's a lot of it is electric universe theory, man. Like he's talking about it's electric, and this is electric, and gravity's electricity and stuff. He mentions a lot of stuff that's very similar to this whole electric universe theory, and that's a whole group of people that really wouldn't pass a college electromagnetism course. I doubt they can do divergence gradients or curls or any of the vector calculus operations that are required for properly understanding electromagnetic field theory. Maxwell's and the whole Maxwell thing. Yeah, we talked about Bandurek has gone, and Richard Bandurek had that whole thing where he went into the whole Higgs, not the Higgs, but the other formalism before Maxwell that was thrown out, the other systems of equations before we use Maxwell's equations. There was the Heaviside Gibbs equations and that whole formalism. And there's some other derivations and things in the mathematics that get thrown out in terms that get just kind of lost, like the B cross B field and other things. But yeah, there's a lot of people dismissing academia. There's a lot of people dismissing the mainstream because we've been lied to for so long. I mean, we had a lab-made bioweapon that was produced in a lab by people who were supposed to be in charge of, keeping us safe and protected. And they purposely leaked the lab-made bioweapon and then didn't investigate anything or any of the people involved and let them like run the response, which was a disaster. And they haven't investigated, Fauci and all that stuff. So there's a ton of people that know with everything that they did, they were paying people to go get the vaccines, walking around neighborhoods and promoting this whole vaccine method. And they were meanwhile spreading propaganda about ivermectin and other, regularly used pharmaceutical drugs that they were calling horse paste. And then all this, disinformation that was, telling people, oh, are you going to take the horse paste and all that stuff? And it's like, no, this is ivermectin. It's used to cure all kinds of stuff. It's one of the best medicines that, it's won all kinds of awards. So yeah, the whole thing with that is just, lots of people are awake to what happened and what they did with that whole, the whole vaccine rollout and the whole forced, you must get this vaccine or you're going to get fired from your jobs, and what Bill Gates and Fauci did. These billionaires that, clearly, they pretend on the surface that they have this agenda of saving the world and stuff. But it's really, you look at the money that they made and it just, there's a reason that people don't trust authority, and that we've realized, hey, how can all these, how can all these medical journals be publishing disinformation and getting the studies wrong? Well, they're all funded by big pharma, and look who pays them at the end of the day. It's a big, science is really will agree with whoever pays them, and it's one of the most corrupt fields to be in terms of science. AI has determined that fraud in medical journals is far more rampant than in any other field of scientific journal in existence. So we can't trust the official authorities. We can't trust the doctors. We can't trust the data. They were fudging the data, trying to make it look like more people died from the virus than actually did. There's all kinds of stuff that they did that was just bad, and nobody trusts them anymore. So, and then with on top of that, there's other things that, conspiracies. There's tons of conspiracy theories now, because we can't trust the government or anything they say, because the official story never makes any sense. It just completely falls apart when you do basic investigation. Like, example Brian Keaton brought up last night during the talk with Eric Weinstein. He talked about 9/11 conspiracy theories. We know we were lied to. We know that the people who benefited the most from that were the Bush administration, who wanted an excuse to go into Iraq. They needed an excuse to start a war. And you look at all the evidence for who benefited. Building 7, it falls down inexplicably later in the day. Nobody knows what happened to it. And nobody trusts these people anymore. Larry Silverstein made $8 billion off the towers going down. Meanwhile, all the reinsurance scams that were run by AIG, they got caught in 2008 running all these reinsurance scams. They did the same thing on 9/11, paid out Larry Silverstein his $8 billion with no questions asked. And this stuff is real. It happened. And then the people who worked in the World Trade Center for the head of securities, that guy who was head of Securicom Stratesec for security in the towers during all those elevator remodelizations and fireproofing upgrades, where they had tons of work going on all the floors, plenty of access to the buildings and construction going on in the 2 years prior to 9/11. And then that guy leaves. His contract at the World Trade Center for security expires on September 11, 2001. And now he works for SAIC Leidos Corporation. He's the vice president there. Go look this guy up. And this guy is now the vice president of Leidos Corporation, which Leidos Corporation, you know what Leidos Corporation did? They made all the airport scanners after 9/11. So they made they made billions of dollars off of 9/11 selling airline scanners, and now you have to wait. You have to get to the airport an hour early and sit in all this security because of 9/11 and because of these guys. And they made a ton off of all this. And now he's the vice president of that company that made all those machines. Went from head of security at the World Trade Center to go running that job, and he works right down in Reston, Virginia. So I begged James O'Keefe to go and confront this guy and set up a fake date with him so that they could ask him some questions. But that would never happen, man. These guys are all rats. And just like Philip Zelikow, who they hired to run the investigation into 9/11 for the government. So the government runs these faulty, fake, bullshit investigations. We open up, fake offices within the government to supposedly investigate UFOs, like they did. So the Aero office, the All Domain Aero Anomaly Resolution Office, completely bullshit, fucking wrong program for the wrong job. It's basically doing the absolute wrong thing for the UFO phenomenon, which should be about the technology, finding out where the missing 30-some trillion dollars went. I mean, we sent the man to the moon on a couple billion. So we're talking about enough money to build an entire space program. Missing from the Pentagon budget. 2.3 trillion was reported missing the day before 9/11, and that number has gone up, wicked high since then. And as you know, that 9/11 AMEC Corporation was doing the renovations in the Pentagon on 9/11. So AMEC Corporation did all the $258 million refurbishment, and they were actually finishing up their work in the Pentagon the morning of 9/11 when that Flight 77 allegedly struck the West Wing of the Pentagon. And you can see their trailers, the wire spools and stuff that are outside. That's all AMEC Corporation. They did a whole refurbishment to this wing, installed bomb-proof and blast-proof windows and siding. They went and sprayed the interior structure with Line-X to make it structurally blast-proof. They did all this excessive renovations on the towers. So that's why there's not a lot of damage to that wing when the plane struck it. And by the way, the planes were flown by remote control. They had hijacked technology that could capture the plane and fly it to the ground safely, so that the terrorists would be locked out of the cockpit controls and they could fly it to the ground on an autopilot controller. They developed that technology on disaster scenario planning think tanks for the COG, Continuity of Government program, back in the 80s, and they developed this technology in the 90s under a company called Systems Planning Corporation, and the CEO of that company was the comptroller of the Pentagon on 9/11, a guy named Dob Zakheim. So yeah, you can correct yourself on 9/11 and come correct. We know that was an inside job. It needs to be investigated, and nobody trusts our lying government or our academic institutions anymore. So it's a real sad place to be in the defense industry when you know that your government blew up its own building. And by the way, AMEC Corporation moved a lot of the offices out of that wing. So not a lot of people died in that wing of the Pentagon. There weren't a lot of people at their offices and at their desks when that plane struck. The people who were at the offices and desks, though, were all the financial accounting and creditors' offices in the Pentagon. So all the people that were working to track down that missing $2.3 trillion were conveniently killed on 9/11. And if you think Al-Qaeda targeted those people and did that, then I have some Eskimo land to sell you. Anyways, it's just ridiculous when you look into some of these so-called conspiracy theories. This is all facts. This is all 100% verifiable intel that you can go look up. These people work for these companies. They have the contracts. You can go research that stuff. And yet guys like John Greenwald will say that there's no evidence for 9/11 being an inside job, even though I just named off tons of evidence and corporations. So yeah, not a lot of people really trust the government anymore, man. And so we get all these really whacked out esoteric people that can come on and just say that, hey, everything they've taught you is wrong, man, and come Learn my model. It's much easier and simpler to understand. We don't got any of that, Lewis structure nonsense and valence electrons and Gibbs free energy equation and all that stuff that you learn in conventional college chemistry. God forbid you take a real college chemistry class and learn how to actually make some crystal meth in your garage. But hey, let's listen to Terrence, man. I mean, they're watching you, man. They're watching me right now, and they're mad as hell that we're getting so close and we figured out so much of this stuff, and that we've been doing this so long that we don't need to waste our time and be stupid with this. We can get right to the nuts and bolts of where the actionable intel is and actually get right to it. So if they didn't want people knowing this, they didn't want people having access into this information, you would have never got on Joe Rogan, buddy. I'm sorry, bro. Just like me, you would be banned for life. You would never get on Joe Rogan. I'll never be on Joe Rogan. Why? Because I could sit there and tell stuff about 9/11 that would just blow people's minds, that they can absolutely go and fact check and verify, and that the biggest debunker on the planet would lose a debate to me. And they have gotten them. First, I wonder what Jeremy thinks of Terrence Howard's theory after watching your channel so many years. Awesome. Thank you, Madam Von Kook. I appreciate the super chat. I did. I think I did see that go by. Oh, there's even more. I'm trying to pay attention to the comments, guys, but I'm so deep in the evil. Yeah, it's a world of misinformation, man. And they're just literally putting out tons of misinformation and disinformation, Yes, dude, you can smoke the quasi-crystal math. Absolutely, Bob Loser. Why do you think you got on Joe Rogan so many times, dude? Why do you think United Nuclear got shut down and run out of Michigan? Anyways, let's not get into all that stuff. What's up, Bernie?
Hello. I was enjoying the 9/11 rants because you truly do the best of those, because it needs to
be said, man. And I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not going to ever back down from speaking the truth. And I don't think anybody else should be either. We should all be, upfront and as forward as possible with this truth, and not be afraid to speak it anymore, because the facts are on our side, and we'll win that debate if we just if we have those facts and the knowledge of them. This is what I was talking about with the truncation. Here's the cube. There's a quarter-way truncated, halfway truncated, three-quarters of the way truncated, and then fully truncated. It becomes the octahedron. Isn't that cool?
Right. And so that, I believe, actually might tie into what Howard thinks he's saying in regards to octaves and phase conjugation, and how eventually we'll be able to do this cold fusion through acoustics, and the heart of the technology that he's trying to claim that we're all trying to figure out and work on. But if you're showing a drone, that's still powered by fans, that's not anti-gravity, so don't try to claim that you got it.
Yeah, no, that's not a UFO, man. That's a little helicopter. It's a drone. It's not a UFO. So don't say you have UFO propulsion technology if you got a little helicopter. Exactly. So these are different types of polyhedra and different cells, and these are called Coxeter-Dinkin diagrams, which represent the vertex structure, and it will tell you all the different ones with the P, Q, and R values. So this is the math that Goodwill Hunting was doing on the chalkboard as the janitor outside the MIT. When he solved the problem, he was doing Coxeter-Dinkin diagram solutions and group theory stuff. So that's a whole other branch of mathematics, which is involved deeply in how crystals form and how crystal structures form. So it's not just this one thing that he's got, and that's all crystals, and that's every crystal in the whole. We got all kinds of different crystals. We got diamond lattices, I wish I had some more of my crystals with me. This is a diamond lattice. You can see like certain angles, like this angle and this angle, you can see all the way through.
That's so cool.
And then every quarter angle, like you can see through, even on the. Yeah, it's super cool. And this is like super lightweight. It doesn't use very much plastic at all, and it's wicked strong. I mean, for plastic. Anyways, yes, this is so we got Kaida got a super chat in there. Oh, here we are. How come there is no concept of zero in any of the ancient language from Aztec to Greek? No civilization utilized the concept of zero. We're highly advanced in physics and astronomy, which required calculation. You know, I'm maybe mistaken, but I think that I mean, how ancient we talking? So Aztec to Greek. So Greek and zero. They knew of it as a concept, but didn't think of it as a number. Yeah, right. So you couldn't divide by zero. They knew that. And yeah, they used the oval to represent nothing.
Shiva the Destroyer says the Mayans invented zero. What fascinates me is the Babylonians and their base 12 system, right? It's just
base number systems are cool. So you could have like binary is base 2. You know, so you have zeros and ones. That's how your computers talk. You know, so you run out of bits. You have to go up to the next space, You know, those number systems are quite interesting. Of course, 10 is the easiest to use and just makes the most sense, and it's easiest to divide by and multiply and do that with. So that's why we use 10. You have the 10 fingers,
right. Well, and just going full conspiracy there with the 10 fingers and us 10, and then there's all these stories of giants with 6 fingers, and well, all these depictions of Babylonians being giants.
Yeah, maybe
why they were 12.
That's why they had the 6 base number system. They only had 6 fingers to count with. So, yeah, or they just missed their middle finger, right? Anyways, yeah, it's there's so much deeper math to learn if you really want to get into like high level math and study high level cool awesome math. There's a lot of cool math to learn that's way cooler than square root of 2 and all that very basic stuff that he's trying to. I don't know, man. I just want to know
how you can get from the whatever he showed, these like colored like little polygons or something, and said this is Jesus walking on water. Like,
I know, man. I know. I don't get it. And he said this is the grand unified field theory. And it's just like, yeah, you're blowing Joe Rogan's mind. He doesn't know what to say to this, but every physicist watching this is doing the face palm. You know? I wonder.
You could argue that in binary, you could use any 2 numbers to represent on and off 1 and 2. So that's an interesting concept that, like, maybe that's a breakthrough right there.
You just use placeholders instead of numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
But
that's what calculus essentially is, no?
I like this idea of projecting the flower of life into 3D, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're just getting, there's a dual, you're just getting that's an octahedron, right? Yeah, that's an octahedron. If you just map the points on it, it's just an octahedron. So you're back to the basic Platonic solids and stuff, and you haven't explained how to get the pentagon and where the whole phi relationship with Fibonacci sequence and golden ratio. All that's a big part of sacred geometry connected in there
What
too. So.
I come to understand the overall most relevance out of that, if you want to go back to that image quickly there, see this right here. So this black space, that represents the dark matter space, and then all the spheres that are missing, that are the circles that make up the circle of life there, that is your field forces. That's the energy of the visible universe, and then that's the correlation between how you get in between dark energy and real energy, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, he made some other point about how, like, if you count up all the points, if you map this whole thing out and then you count up all the points, it's 137 of them. And I'm just like, well, how does that make any sort of like physical mathematical sense of the fine structure constant and where it appears in nature? And I just couldn't, it just does not compute. We've gotten such better understandings of 100 of that number and what it means physically through our APEC discussions, that like I feel like this has just taken us a huge step backwards from everything we've figured out over the last year or two on APEC. And
this is true.
And then this guy comes on and is like, I got the secrets. I envisioned them through my dreams by going to this library in my dream that has, the book of all the knowledge in the world in it. And it's just in my dreams, and I can go there and read it. And it has, the better chemistry that's, but I don't see him inventing new chemicals or new chemistry stuff, man. With this
it's a lot of claims with not a lot to go off of. And it's like, okay, well, come engage us and show us the practicalities of what you're trying to claim.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
right, because like if they actually were able to use this simulation to generate the rings and the hexagon on Saturn without putting in gravity, but with the complexity of what he's claiming on it, without there being like just some cheat within that system, then yeah, there's something to look at there. But we need to be able to have this to now actually access and apply and play with, right?
That's another one too, man. You ever heard Dan Winter before?
Yeah, lots of Dan Winter. And it's like, so he's essentially like bridging a lot of Dan Winter's stuff with Nassim Haramein stuff, and it's
got Joe Rogan. He's got the Marco Rodin and who's that?
Yeah, it's like
Randy Powell.
Either he just took everyone else's stuff and like came up with a jumble of BS of his own, or he might actually be on to linking them together. But I wouldn't put all my money in that nest.
Yeah, and I just don't get this whole the square root of 2 equals 1, dude. No, it doesn't. It square root of 2 equals like 1.414 or something. So yeah, I get it. I get it, Mike. In fact, Michael Boyd, I see you out there, man. I sent you an invite in your email. I sent a couple people to be part of the. I was going to put a panel together to really, maybe we can get some other people. Dan Winter sounds like a word salad to me when I listen to Dan Winter, man. He sounds like he does not know terminology or.
And then he starts going into like the Dracos and this and that, and it's man, you can't go that esoteric if you're trying to teach science. Like, come on, how are we supposed to take it seriously?
I think he's. I would invite Dan Winter to come on with some of my math friends and lay out his stuff down. I don't think he will. In fact, I've connected with some people that know Dan Winter, and I've tried to get him on, and he's just not. He knows.
He knows not.
Yeah,
might get exposed.
I mean, we know our shit on this. I mean, I don't know everything, but I know a lot about a lot of this stuff because it's super interesting. It's always been super interesting to me. You know what I mean? So
right, and that a lot of these people, sure, they do make certain little breakthroughs, but then they try to advertise it as I've solved everything. Now come flock to me like a cult.
Well, this is an amazing thing if this works. If you can get excess energy out of, liberating water.
Right? Like that's literally what
That
caught my
sounds cool to
mind.
me. I'm willing to entertain this and look further into this, especially you got a Journal of Plasma Physics citing here. That's good stuff, man. That's what we need is
okay. I have to bring up, and can you look up and find, I swear it was like 4 or 5 days ago on physics.org, they published that they've now found a new elemental particle that is smaller than hydrogen, that is just electrons, and it's exactly the same one that was predicted by Walter Russell over 100 years ago in his periodic tables. And that Walter Russell there's like 20 different periodic tables by Walter Russell. There's not just the spiral one. That's the key aspect. And it's all different diagrams of how you take the periodic table out of a torus, essentially. But the breakthrough on a new particle that is below hydrogen, that is just electrons.
So, you can do fluid flow equations for a vortex and then compare them to Marco Rodin's absolute nonsense, fake mathematics. I have a video. I gotta find some of the videos of Marco Rodin, man. Like,
and this right here, this is a key. Dead fish cheese spread. Beryllium doesn't split water into O2 and nitrogen. It doesn't react to water at all. So that's like a huge part of his claim.
Maybe he was, right? I think, right. Well, maybe he got the metal wrong or something, but I don't know. I don't know. That's definitely what he said. So, yeah, the Rodin coils do not work. They don't do anything special. That I just talked to. They're focusing coils.
And the Rife coils don't work even more than the Rodin coils.
Energy from that. You know how many Rodin coils my friends and me have built, dude? Like, and we did this years ago. So you're talking to like this stuff's his mathematics is nonsense. Okay, he claims that he got it from studying these ancient scriptures and sources and stuff. There's nothing there. There's this thing that he puts the 3, 6, and 9 on this number chart and then says he relates it to Tesla, and then it's mapped out over some structure, dude. It's not any type of
dig up Stan Myers. Stan Myers is the one that made the breakthrough that we need, that is turning water into hydrogen on spot and possibly over unity.
Yeah, Stan Meyer might have been on something. That is an interesting thing. I'll entertain, because that guy, they poisoned him. And I know they poisoned a lot of other people or bought them off that claim they got free energy or other technologies. So definitely something interesting going on with that. But I've been through the Marco Rodin stuff. I've met Marco Rodin, have had conversations with him. He's a fraud and he's full of shit.
He's schizophrenic, to say the least.
100% full of shit. Okay. I think you're missing the point of Rodin. I think Rodin is missing the point of like everything mathematics. I think the guy doesn't understand jack shit about mathematics or higher mathematics. I think that you people that want to tell me I'm missing part of the puzzle, man. I have a degree in math. Okay. I can solve. If me and Marco Rodin sat down next to each other and we took our GRE, a graduate record examination, college physics math, okay, I guarantee you I would smoke him. I would smoke him so hard and bad. It wouldn't even compare the test results. Okay. So I just letting you people know it's not math. It's not math at all.
He says he's doing a larger toroidal magnet or magic square. So that's something to look into in the aspect that it's also a huge claim of the Searle effect, is this magic square aspect of it. I don't know. Magic squares are called magic for a reason. I don't know.
Yeah, it's nonsense. Okay, there's absolutely nothing there. And if you want to learn vortex based mathematics, right,
Where's anything applicable, right? Like, okay, so if that is the case, where's the magic results out of this after him doing it for 20 years?
Or where's the coil that does anything? Or where's anything that's been produced out of this? Because, you know, Marco Rode and I was at Tesla Tech back in 2009, you know, so he's had 15 years to work on this stuff, man. So, you know, and the other thing is, I want to get Nassim. I don't know what's up with Nassim Harriman, but
I like Nassim. I would like a chance to talk to him to actually see, because I've got a lot of questions.
He's been a very controversial figure in physics because of a lot of the claims he's made about grand unification and unified field theory in physics. But you know, he was working with some brilliant physicists, though, like Elizabeth Rauscher, who's I believe no longer with us. So some of the physicists on his team, you know, he may have had some interesting insights, but of course, not everything Nassim says I agree with either. You know, the idea that it's fractal all the way down. No, it's not. You get to the Planck level, and it's something else that goes on there, and it's not repeating all the way down. There's something else. So I just, you know, and then Nassim really lacks a lot of the, he lacks a lot of the background physics knowledge and stuff, because he's messed up a lot of like the explanations of quark theory and other basic elementary particle physics theory. He just didn't have the real knowledge of that stuff. But apparently he's got some funding, and they're building some stuff. You know, he's got some pictures he's been posting it with these pretty big vacuum chambers in the background, and some pretty interesting scientific equipment that they've got working on there. I don't know. It would be cool to interview him and check this stuff out, because a lot of physicists have criticized him, called him a charlatan and a fraud, and all that stuff. And you know, I've given.
It would be good to interview all of these individuals, and it's just whether they're willing to come on and actually be scrutinized and actually trying to explain what
I'm not going to
claim, right?
If Marco comes on, I'm not going to say he's a fraud right out. I'm not going to just say that like I did here. I'm going to really dig into every claim, all the mathematics, all the science, all that stuff, and we're really going to hash it out. And I'm not going to use those kind of summary. You know, I'm just trying to summarize this for people that are into this stuff. A lot of people watching this stuff who are new to this, having no idea what this stuff is, just getting into it, or think they understand it. And I just trying to hope people not wasted their time, you know,
or get their hopes up, or get misled and start forming a fan cult, and you know, stuff that put your energy into what will actually change the world.
Dude, I'm not the Pope, man. And I'm not giving Galileo a hard time. I'm giving him a platform and a whole team of skeptical scientists that are open-minded, that he could easily convince if he has the evidence. So I'm not at all what we're doing. I never set up a Inquisition or a Catholic Church or any of that stuff, man. We're just here to try to get real information and say, like, well, not everything they teach in academia is a lie and is false. You know, some really smart people figured out a lot of really interesting, smart stuff that isn't taught in regular school. You know, your public school education didn't teach you this stuff, and now you think it's a conspiracy and there's some huge thing going on. It's I don't know. It's, again, a lot of they just had shitty teachers. I had terrible math teachers in public school. They didn't know any of this stuff, man. So, yes. Anyone else? We got Mike. Mike's right here with us. Mike, what's up, Mike? Can't hear you. Jeremy takes terms as he likes to see them and then skips 10 steps and calls it a debunk. Dude, when I've done debunks, they're very, very fucking thorough and full of facts. You should get your shit straight.
Yes.
Like when I do a debunk, I go all in. I go hard. So,
1, 2. Yeah,
a lot of these guys are full of shit, man. Yeah, I can hear you. I want anyone else who thinks that Has
The
anything
only
else?
thing I can talk on physics is that cannot be argued, and I can explain it clearly, is the 90-degree angle. When you have the 90-degree curve, you have the most distance with the most force at that, not curve, sorry, angle. Using the gravitational force, you'll achieve the most forward, and everybody knows this. We drive cars, you know. So if you roll a ball down a 90-degree angle with that angle will take the most advantage of the most available gravitational force there is for that ball at that 90-degree angle. If you give it any more of an angle, more vertical and straight down, it's not going to get any more force of the gravity, and you're going to lose forward motion. You're going to go straight down. You're not going to go this way. You're going to go this. You're not going to move forward horizontally.
Here's a question.
The 90-degree angle gets you the maximum horizontal distance as well as the maximum gravitational force at that angle to go that distance. I mean, anybody went up a mountain and down a mountain, you know that. So you can't argue that. And that's all I can say about physics. From there I expand.
Well, how much of gravitational force is actually inertial force?
The maximum is achieved at the 90-degree angle. And you go to 89 degrees, and you don't get any more gravitational force than you would get at 90. You get the same amount all the way to 0, but you lose forward motion. Forward motion. The triangle.
The vast majority, kid.
Forward motion.
Gravity
makes you do that. So you roll a ball downhill at 90 degrees, you're going to take advantage of everything gravity has to offer that ball. If you roll that ball at 89 degrees, you're losing forward motion and you're not gaining any gravitational force.
So none of these people have unified theory of none of these people have unified gravity and showed what gravity is. Okay. And I'm going to have a guest on my show. I've got a guy coming on.
Gravity seems to be related to the angular angles.
So if there's like some unified field where everything's this geometric unity and we hit all the angles right, maybe. But there's a whole other thing though. Is gravity is such a hard problem, man.
Well, I mean, not really, because at 90 degrees, the ball is getting the maximum effect of the gravity. If you go to 89 degrees, you're not getting any more gravity force. You're getting the same you got at 90. What you're losing is 1 degree of forward motion.
That's interesting, though, because that would also have to go back into Roman numerals, trying to answer Kidda's question, and how did they do all of their mathematics without 0? Because they did.
Let me go on the record. I never studied physics.
And they
per
used
se,
Roman numerals.
Really.
They didn't use our system of numbers. They used a different one.
Yeah, they used Roman numerals. Yeah.
So that's actually a very complex question, and that story, Kidda, that question's going to cost more than $10 to answer, because that is actually a very fundamental, huge question you have brought up there, and it is worth a lot more than $10 to if anyone can actually answer that.
So there's a channel, as I mentioned this channel before. I'm going to just bring it up again because they're awesome. But you guys should check out Numberphile, and he's got a whole bunch of videos on zero, problems with zero. This one's from 11 years ago. It's a good one. He brings up a bunch of different stuff. And
well, it's 2 different complete systems. So then it's like you're bringing up this is actually something that really needs to be answered and thought about, because it does bring up quite the complexity, and it actually also brings up the possibility that Howard Terrence might not be wrong, that there is another system where 0 times 1 equals 1 or something. I don't know, but if they like, because the Romans and the Roman numerals and that whole system didn't use 0 at all. So that's actually quite a complex issue and thought right there.
They also weren't, super deep into number theory, so like a lot of those areas of mathematics weren't really developed.
But they used the sacred geometric models, which were full analog models, and then it's like, this is bringing up the question, is simpler better? I'd say no, because then they wouldn't have computers doing this, and we wouldn't all be talking to each other and going in the digital age and all the rest of it. So there's that aspect, but yeah.
And if anyone can find me the Blender file that Terrence Howard used to make that Blender render of the Saturn's rings and the hexagon, I want to dig into that, because that's hard data, and
that's huge, because if in fact there's something to that and they were able to actually do it without using gravity as a factor, that's very perplexing.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. I'm curious to see what comes of that. It would be, everyone wants to take credit for being able to explain that hexagon on Saturn, because it's just such a mind bender,
Isn't it also explained by hypertoroidal physics, or what was his name? The dude with the Cydonia studies.
Yeah, dude, there was so many little things. We don't have time to literally go through that entire 3 hour. I don't have 3 hours to go through everything that he said, man, because it was a lot of stuff, dude.
He literally listed like 1,000 different rabbit holes. Like,
I love this, dude. How there's always someone like, oh, you're just
jealous. Richard Hoagland's theory. Thank you.
Oh, Richard Hoagland, that guy.
I got a question about Einstein's formula.
Physics or whatever it was, and
he was the master of just spinning, words together, and man, he could you'd ask him anything, and he'd just bullshit an explanation, man. Like that guy was a master.
Still, I still thank him for bringing up Cydonia, and that I think there's something to the face of Mars and those pyramidal buildings that are arranged.
That'd be so cool if there were pyramids on the moon and a sphinx that looks upwards at us. That would be awesome. Yeah, I love that idea, but
why does the quality of the resolution of what NASA is able to broadcast back to us keep getting shittier each decade? That's a question that needs to be answered.
Yeah, dude. Though there's definitely something going on there, and that fake Arrow office was not going to get to the bottom of any of that stuff, man. That was I loved how, how pissed off Stephen Greenstreet was that Tim Burchett said they're lying to us. He's like, oh, they're lying to us after that report came out, man. But I really wish I could get 10, 15 minutes with Tim Burchett to really lay it down on him about how they're lying to us and just how deep it goes with all this, so that he could come up with a better explanation for all that, because that was just the Arrow Resolution Office, right? The Arrow office run by Sean Kirkpatrick, okay, comes out later that Sean Kirkpatrick's connected to SAIC. So he's, scientific defense contractor, one of these inside deep state organizations. And he's headed this fake office that looks at Arrow anomalies and tries to form resolutions to them. We have no office that oversights, the technology. We have no office that looks into organizations like the Battelle Memorial Institute, who I talk about quite often. The Battelle Memorial Institute looks like a container organization. It's a quasi-governmental organization, which means it has all of the security clearances and powers of a governmental organization, but it's a private nonprofit institute. So it has none of the oversights a normal governance institution would have. That means you can't FOIA information. You can't file a FOIA and get information from Battelle on anything. Yet they manage all of our national labs. So they have contracts to manage all of our national laboratories, which is just
a crime in itself.
That's anything that gets invented at our national labs gets scooped up by these patent holding companies run by Battelle, and it never sees the light of day. So any free energy or anti-gravity stuff is going to get scooped up by this container organization. It's going to get held inside there, and it's going to be unfoyable, unsearchable, and unknown, completely invisible to our government and our leaders and our oversight committees in government who don't even have access to this stuff. And that's how it's been set up since the 1940s when they stovepiped all the Manhattan Project business so that they could cover, keep all that deep underground with the Manhattan Project. So they knew what they were doing about keeping things secret and out of the prying eyes of government oversight back then. And this organization still exists, man. It's been around for 100 years. So you want to talk about an organization that could be hiding all the evidence of aliens?
Didn't Battelle make toys and stuff like that?
No, that's Mattel.
Oh.
Motherly Battelle makes the toys from what Battelle sends them.
No, that's Barbie is made by Mattel. But yeah, Battelle Institute is in Ohio, and it's only 40 minutes from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So a lot of people.
Do you have footage, Bim Jim? That's quite the experience claim.
And they help with the COVID tests, dude. In fact, they got paid. Check this out. They received a $400 million contract from the Defense Logistics Agency to redo friggin' masks. So they decontaminated 5 million masks with an average of $31 per mask. Okay? And they got all the taxpayers' money. We paid Battelle to recycle and decontaminate masks. Okay, now the masks that they decontaminated contain these fibers that gave everybody cancer and fucked up their lungs. And we spent $31 per mask. They could have just bought a new fucking mask for like 10 or 15 bucks. Fucking goddamn government idiots, and the spending is just so ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah, Jeremy, would you say it's the Democrats that do all those crazy spending, or the Republicans? This is like still not figured out.
It's a two-party. The deep state does not know color or have any allegiance to that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of them that don't care and will play both sides of that puzzle, and will wear the sheep's clothing of whatever team to win the
aside election. From the deep state, like. But is it the Democrats that are doing all the crazy spending, or is it the Republicans that are just throwing money up in the air?
It's all money laundering.
Stupid spending going on everywhere. You hear all these stupid stories on spending money, and it's a scam to just pocket money somehow. Oh,
a lot of it is. They've pocketed all kinds of money. I just know that if I had, they probably stole the money and spent it on yachts and hookers and blow and stuff for all we know. But if I had 30 trillion, man, I'd have a space program and some pretty sweet.
There's no oversight on taxpayer dollars.
None.
I know. It's pretty. It's
worse than we're at the point. It's scary.
That's why we need to decentralize blockchain our
point of the Soviet Union's collapse. It's getting that bad because who the fuck can afford $20,000 a hammer, $30,000 for a toilet seat? And now, because they've sanctioned the world, the American dollar is set to
hold on. Did you guys know that Lithuania is the only country that has blockchain voting?
Doing what?
What? What is
Lithuania is the only country in the world that you can vote on a decentralized blockchain platform for your president.
How the fuck did we get to Lithuania? What were you just
Putin is after, these countries, one of which is, Lithuania, where you have an open democratic, vote system, no corruption going on. It's all blockchained. And, Putin's corrupt. He's going, he's bringing up the communist thing. I'm just saying, if we had a blockchain voting system that was decentralized, we have... less likely of any corruption
No,
going
it's
on.
actually true. We need an open, everybody needs to be
A couple
able
of
to
Oversight. The
treasure-
blockchain is the
A couple of
oversight that
treasure
we
hunt-
need.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
Did you guys hear about the treasure they found? They found that Civil War
You know,
gold.
blockchain, every tax dollar that is appropriated,
So
put that on the
large
blockchain,
treasure.
you know?
Mike, I don't give a fuck about that. All right.
The
All right.
FBI stole their gold, and not just a
Check
little
this
gold.
out.
$500
This is
million
friggin'
worth
amazing.
of gold. Confederate soldiers allegedly buried it in the middle of rural Pennsylvania as the Civil War
These
ended.
guys were looking for the Civil War missing
Him and
gold,
Dennis Parda.
and they
And
found it. They found it. They said, we got a huge hit. There should be 14 tons of gold buried under the ground here. They went over it with all their yeah, I know, for real. I'm sorry, I could only take so much, dude. Stay on fucking topic, dude. Where we go from this to Lithuania to fucking, just shut up, dude. I'm sorry, Mike. I love you, buddy, but you drive me fucking nuts.
Have been searching.
These guys found 14 fucking tons of gold in Pennsylvania, right where around where the missing Civil War shipment went through, right? They called the FBI. The FBI came down there, sent teams. The FBI wouldn't let them in the area. The FBI originally promised, "Oh, you'll be there when we dig everything up." They wouldn't let them in the area. They made them go down the street.
For dense
And they filmed them coming out of there with gold trucks. They found the gold. They took the FBI, stole the gold, and covered it up.
But when the Paradas got there,
can you be more corrupt? All right, can we finally put the FBI on trial and get rid of them? They literally just got caught stealing the Civil War gold.
All right, Kem.
They literally found 14 tons of gold under there. They called the FBI. The FBI came in, kicked them out, cordoned off the whole place, and then stole the fucking gold. It's insanity.
Grand larceny right there, and the cover up and all of it. It's time the FBI gets raided, shut down, and
you trust your government that much, dude. Oh my God, this is insane, dude. Yes, exactly. I would dig it all myself. I would at least document it and show it out there and be like, look, we found the gold. Here it is, so that the FBI can't. They lie and said we didn't find anything. There was nothing there. Dude, it is so.
They are the Gestapo. They are the Gestapo. That is all the FBI are at this point. It is ridiculous. They have never been so corrupt, and now caught stealing the Civil War gold. You heard it here first. Well, actually, you heard it on your news, but they didn't really tell you the significance.
And no one. Who do you gonna call and be like, "Yo, the FBI stole my gold"? Who do you call?
Right? Exactly.
It's so
CIA. Actually, maybe the CIA. Hey, CIA, go get your cut. See if the FBI will pay you your cut. Oh,
now,
did you get cut out?
The former head of the FBI is a guy named Louis Freeh, and Louis Freeh is now the attorney for Bandar bin Sultan, who's the Saudi Arabian diplomat that funded 9/11, that funded the 9/11 hijackers. So he's now the lawyer for the 9/11 ringleader. The former head of the FBI, and he was a longtime Jeffrey Epstein client, flew on Lolita Express and part of the whole Pizzagate connection.
Right, and gold Civil War coins are worth a lot.
And now they stole all the gold war.
Yeah.
No, it's not, dude. The gold was right there in Pennsylvania. These guys researched it. They mapped it out. They did the research for 40 years. They tracked down the gold. They found it. And they turned it over to the FBI. The FBI stole it all.
This story's been going on for a while. This was a year ago or something that it first started going down. And now it's just finally starting to make the news that, oh, yes, the FBI did steal it. They did, yeah.
Yes, dude. Yes, they're corrupt criminals, man. They're the worst. The agency is so bad, dude. All they do is they cover up and protect.
Is anyone going to go to jail for stealing the Civil War gold?
They made big money. They all got paid off. Everyone got a big cut, and they're all living in retirement, dude. And by the way, Louis Freeh is also the guy that scheduled the company retreat for the entire counterterrorism task force was flown to Monterey, California, the week of 9/11 for a company retreat. How convenient to have
all of a sudden it's get a Civil War gold coin if you vote for Biden.
Get a Civil War coin with your pledge of $1,000 to the Joe Biden campaign. Louis, it's all free money. Dude, it is so crazy. Yeah, man, it is nuts what's going on right now, man. Dude, they buried all that gold out there and they found it. Yeah, they've been for a long time, man. It's pretty crazy what's
criminal
going on.
what they are doing. If you haven't realized that they're criminals, maybe now that they stole all the Civil War gold, you will.
And they put out the other thing too is that they put out on Joe Rogan right now. We're so close, man. We're like working with NASA scientists. I'm working with Bueller and his team on developing this propulsion drive that he's come out with, and we're in the process of trying to replicate this and show that it works and blow like propulsion and anti-gravity out. Like we're so close to being there, to doing this, and this guy goes on Rogan and gets 5 million views, and everyone thinks that he's the guy that's got anti-gravity and all the solutions to like the universe and all these things figured out. And the reality is nobody does. Nobody's got all that shit figured out. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I don't claim to have any of that, all that shit figured out. I claim to have some real interesting people that come on here and talk to us that might have some of that stuff figured out or have some plausible answers to that stuff. And we invite, the community. We've set up a community of scientists and technical experts to bring other people on to share their ideas and talk about, that we can smoke some Joe Rogan coils, right? But does Jeremy know a thing about mod 9 equations? I could do mod anything, dude. I mean, whatever. Whatever. Anyways, yes, I could do all that stuff. So whatever. But we're gonna get there, man. This is the implosion tech. Yeah, that's Victor Schauberger, man. We've seen and heard all this stuff before, man.
It's part of the
proof is in the pudding. Either you're producing something that's an anti-gravity or you're building helicopters, drones. All right.
Yeah.
It's the proofs.
Come on and tell us and give us your models to work with so we can apply them and see if they're revolutionary, and don't just claim that you have it all without sharing.
Dude, I got this
you're working with, right? Like,
it's scary, man. It's like I haven't done a stream because I've had this giant zit straight in the middle of my forehead for like 2 weeks now. It just will not go away. It's like they have a mark on my head, dude.
Shit, well, put on some glasses. You're good. There's the AI option. It just blurs your face.
1 times 1 is 2. What the fuck? No. 1 times 1 is 1, dude. I showed. Look, it's very, very easy. Let's just go over it one more time. So, and to prove this works for any number, it works both ways. So it's commutative, like multiplication, man.
The simplest solution.
3 times 3. This is multiplication, and that's addition. Is you count them all up. It's very, very simple, man. So if you want to do, 2 times 4, you could do 2 and then 4 branches off each one. You count them all up. There's 8, right? Or you could do 4 with 2 off each one, right? So that also equals 8. 8 and 8. So 1 times 1 is when you put them end on end. 1 plus 1 is when you put them next to each other and you count them. So that's
okay. Now do it in Roman numerals.
No, it's easier to do it with symbols, man. I mean, they made up these symbols, but it's just it's easier to do it contextually with these what are called graphs. Graphs are great.
Well, you can do it.
So 1 times 1, but 2 times 1 equals 2. Yes. Okay. Yes. Let's do 2 times 1, and 1 times 2 equals 2. So there's 2 ways to do 1 times 2, right? You can either do.
Actually,
You can either do 1 times 2 and just make a y.
You no longer need to do a decimal system if you're just using
1
numerals.
Right? And you just count them up. Well, it's the same thing.
Fascinating.
But anyways,
systems.
Someday, man. I just can't believe we're here. We've come so far, and yet we're here. We're here. But hey, you know what? I'm going to go back on Danny Jones. It's going to happen.
The day is going to happen when you're going to be sitting there. I'm going to be sitting here, and I can like stick my arm through the camera, and I can like grab an apple next to you because you're going to create the portals or something.
Yeah, right, dude. I know everyone's freaking out about this warp drive and portal technology. They think that MH370 was teleported, and man, I'm just like, I just want to prove the science of this stuff and get it working. And I don't really, that's just a bunch of nonsense as far as I'm concerned. What was I going to say about the? You guys see Julian Dory, the new? Did you see the new one? So this came out, I think, today. On Julian Dory, he had my buddy Darcy Weir on one day ago. Check this.
It's like
This is a good if you want a good podcast to listen to after this one's done. You checked out Terrence Howard already. Go watch Darcy Weir on the Julian Dory podcast. He starts talking about he talks about me and all my stuff too here. About
Nice.
3/4 of the way through, about the 2-hour mark, he starts talking about all of my stuff too, which is awesome. So I got to get back on Danny Jones. Julian wants to have me on his podcast at some point. I'm going to do all these podcasts, make the rounds this summer, so we can get more of this information out there to some bigger audiences, seeing as Joe Rogan is too busy talking to big names with big claims, and I'm not one of those. So yeah, Jesse Michaels, we might if we can get the experiment set up here with the vacuum chamber and the Biefeld Brown experiment test. Jesse Michaels said he would fly out here to go film that. And what is going on? Burnout of the possibility, but what?
No, you just you've like shown that in your claim you've presented evidence showing contrary and why you're skeptical, and until given more information, Jeremy's taking the point that he doesn't believe to be true.
Yeah, I'm not. So I'm being a gatekeeper? No, I'm not. Dude, these guys are gatekeepers. He's on Joe Rogan with 5 million views telling people that there's no such thing as zero, and that, there's no such thing as straight lines, and that, I can't do the same thing with Euclidean Cartesian coordinates that I can't do in spherical or cylindrical coordinates. Okay, I can do it in circular. And the equations are just different. There's math that he's missing. I'm not. All right.
Basically, Jeremy definitely knows what he's talking about, and well, there's a lot of math in between it, and what Jeremy's asking for is Howard to come on and talk about that math and share it and apply it and give the models so that they can be attested and used and actually verify or, do the scientific process and method of testing these claims that are so extraordinary.
I think what we're going to do soon, I love these rainbow quasi crystals. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell them on our website. But it's more going to be like a donation piece where you're buying this piece of artwork, but you're also you're donating to the lab. So I might sell them for like, I don't know, 50 or 100, just as these things are cool.
100%. They're so dope. That's a great
awesome.
way to.
I would love that on my desk. And then if it came with like a little plaque that says you donated to this to help fund anti-gravity research and stuff, heck yeah. So we're going to continue doing the work we're doing. I'm set up here. I'm just going to show off real quick what we got going on before I log off. I got this vacuum pump, turbo pump set up on this vertical stand to keep it vertically oriented. I'm going to take this off and I'm going to put this Y connector on top with I'm going to glue this bell jar to the top with our apparatus, our high voltage apparatus inside. I'm going to build these electrets to test the Charles Bueller device. We're going to put them on the wings of this, and we're going to have a device that electrically can charge this up through the vacuum so that we can put power on here. And at the top, power will feed through one wire on the bottom is ground, and then the feed wire on the top with the hot, so that we can charge up this thing and see if we can get propulsion spin in a turbo vac with under about 6 bars of pressure. 6X vacuum or whatever it's called. And then I got this. We got an old airbrush. I got an airbrush gun here set up so I can airbrush. I'm going to put inside the pot here I have a solution that I've made of, I've taken limonene and we dissolved styrofoam in the limonene to make a solution of dissolved limonene and basically styrofoam. So we can spray the styrofoam on, and that the styrofoam is dissolved in there, and we can layer by layer with charge. So the spray gun that I have here is going to be hooked up to a high voltage system. We have our little Marks generator and a high voltage power supply here. So we're going to be electrically charging the spray out of the gun to make so we can spray layers of charged particles and try to maintain that the electric charge to form what are called electrets. So we're gonna try to make our own electrets. We got that set up, ready to do and try that, and I'm gonna do that next week, and we're gonna try. We're going to try to actually build some real propulsion anti-gravity technology and reproduce those NASA scientists' claims, and not just build a drone and tell people, if I build a drone that's a helicopter and I tell people that I have anti-gravity, free energy, and that this is how Jesus walked on water, that's not a form of gatekeeping, though. Okay. All right. Thank you for your support and understanding, everyone out there who has.
I believe he's chat because he super chatted the $10 asking the question originally to you on the 0 and the Roman numeral aspect, and that there's a conundrum of it that he's stuck on. I'm sorry that
Hey, I don't.
wasn't
I
able
think
to answer
I
it.
didn't see it, so it must have gone on to your. The $10 must have been to
Oh
your.
no, it was the original on yours. This right?
Maybe they sent it to. I don't know. Thank you for the $10. Thank you for all the super chats.
Right
and,
there. That was the original.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry if you know we're gonna.
He
Yeah.
tried to answer it.
I tried, man. That's not an easy question. All right, it's not a
Right.
$10 question. That's like a $200 research paper, man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, we're gonna keep dunking these bozos, man, and just trying to show people like where they can get a lot deeper information. Paper works better than styrofoam, huh? What kind of paper? Is there any special base? Any tissue paper? Construction paper?
Potentially is dielectric or insulated.
Cardboard paper. I mean, what kind of paper? There's lots of different types of paper. But yeah, that's an interesting. Thank you for that, old man builds, because Anyways, yes, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed
Thanks for having me on, brother.
I hope if there's anything else before I go that we didn't cover that you'd like us to talk about, let us know, and we'll see if Terrence Howard responds to my email request for him to come on our podcast and present. So that'd be great if you could come on APEC and present, and we could really tear into this, and he could really, if he's strong, he can come out on top,
come
man.
On.
Right.
Yeah,
bring it on. In any case, proving anything for free? What? Exactly what you just argued. I didn't ask for money. I said I was going to sell quasi crystals. I didn't. When did I ask for money? Where do you think I got money to fund all this lab and all this equipment? People are fucked, dude. Answer that one. I'll answer that one by blocking you. I don't care about your $10 super chat.
Right? I tried so hard.
People, dude, suck, man. Like, you're wrong. These people you've been listening to are fucking idiots, and they screwed you for money. And you should be ashamed of yourself for being so stupid. Okay? That's all I have to say. Thank you. And the crackheads are coming. And I'm going to end this now. So you don't have any
Much
logic,
love.
bro. You
Stay
listen to a
blessed,
dude who,
everyone.
come on, please. Jesus Christ. Go pick up a book on logic. Go pick up a goddamn educational book. Why don't you go get an education? Why don't you go learn some real math and science for a change, okay? You fell for bullshit. You got scammed by scammers and liars and frauds who pretend are charlatans. These people are charlatans. They pretend to have esoteric, deep knowledge of physics, science, and math, and they don't know shit. They're teaching you wrong information and bullshit. Okay? All right, then what are you saying? Who cares, dude? Whatever. Anyways.
Love you all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting.
Yeah.
Jeremy's really working on stuff. Like, that's real science. This is real science. How can you hate?
Dude, we've been doing this
science?
so much longer, and we're on to real stuff, man. Okay. Yeah, definitely. The guy's having a mental breakdown. His entire worldview just shattered in front of, oh my God, this alien scientist. You're a gatekeeper. How could you be shutting down? The world could be learning about anti-gravity and how Jesus walked on water, but you're blocking them. Anyways, yeah, Kurt Jamungle, man.
How is Jeremy in any way shut him down when he's asking him to come on and present on APEC, right? Like that's the end of it. It's like he's skeptical.
Yeah.
There's a lot of claims, and he's asking the guy to come on and present the information so the models can be tested.
Yes, Joe Rogan is the gatekeeper.
Oh, there is Howard. Okay, well, Terrence, we would love to have you on, so please do come on, and the invitation is open for you to come on because, well, there's a lot of claims. We're people working on it, and please come on, show us your models so we can use them.
Yes, and there's a big difference between talking shit and asking questions. Okay, you were talking shit. So that's why you got the response you did. All right. So, Keita, you're a chat hog, and yeah, thanks for the $10. Have a good night.
And Howard's, how do we reach you? We'll love to have you on APEC.
Yes, Terrence, bring it on, and show us. You know, I tried my best for 2 hours. You had 3. Please show me where I'm wrong. Show me where I got something messed up, and I love being proved wrong, and I love learning new stuff. I like learning new information, man. So yeah.
And
anytime.
I would love, Terrence, I would personally love to discuss
YouTube
all of this with you, and how all of Walter Russell's 20 different periodic tables plot off of the toroid model that is the overall quantum structure.
Yeah, we got to be careful about sharing information with him. This guy's a patent shark, dude. He'll definitely steal your patents, dude.
Oh, true. But come on, APEC, and let's make it happen.
This is that, like, I've proven how they're wrong. I've shown how they're wrong. Dude, like, I show you the real information, dude. Nothing to do with ego. It has to do with education. Actually knowing real math, dude. I'm not the guy telling people square root of 2 = 1. All right. But thanks. Have a great day. Yeah. All right, buddy. I'm not the one with an ego, bro.